On September 26th, the Air Ministry announced the Mosquito. They did not for the time being state the name of the company which created it, and they didn't release photographs. The raid on the Oslo Gestapo headquarters was chosen for this announcement because there is not another aeroplane that could go so far and fly over a town at 50 feet and bomb one particular building. At least a Wellington or any bomber could do it, but its speed would be so low that it would stand very little chance of coming home again. The Mosquitoes went in fast. They already had Focke-Wulf 190s on their tail, although they didn't, as a matter of fact, expect to meet any within 150 miles of Oslo. Directly bombs were gone, bomb doors were closed, and they increased speed by at least 50 miles an hour, divided up and streaked down separate valleys, leaving the Focke-Wulfs behind. That is the special merit of the Mosquito bomber. A brief account of the raid was given by the leading pilot, Squadron Leader Parry, DFC, over the BBC the next day, and one of the other Mosquito crews on this raid, Flying Officer Bristow and his observer Pilot Officer Marshall, spent some time with the makers of the Mosquito during the following week. They discussed every detail of this and other raids with the development engineers and test pilots. They have nothing but the highest praise and enthusiasm for the Mosquito. They attacked the Gestapo headquarters in 2 flights of 2 Mosquitoes, 4 in all, and of these 4, 3 came home. These were DK-296, DK-328, and DZ-313. The other machine evidently hadn't spotted the Focke-Wulfs and got hit by a cannon, which set one engine on fire just before reaching the target. It is unlikely that the crew escaped death because they were too low to do anything to help themselves, and the Focke-Wulf was seen on their tail as they were falling behind. 25% casualties is not considered high for an attack of this kind. Bristow and Marshall were accustomed to 50% and higher casualties when they were attacking convoys in Blenheims 12 or 18 months ago. These day attack pilots regard night bombing as a piece of cake. They described the Oslo raid in talks to 4 of our Mosquito factories, but as they could not visit all the dispersed shops and subcontractors' works, here are a few of the things they mentioned. These 2, Bristow and Marshall, have been crewing together for 2¼ years. Oslo was Bristow's 50th and Marshall's 47th raid. They had only been on Mosquitoes for 2½ weeks, however. For 10 days they practiced with the new type, and then in 1 week they did 3 raids. The first was on the Elbe River estuary, and the second on an iron and steel works in Holland, the biggest of its kind in the Low Countries, which they hit pretty heavily, and then the third was Oslo. On the occasion of the Holland raid, September the 22nd, they were flying DK-337 and were twice hit by German flak. One 40mm shell smashed up the starboard flap, and the other burst inside the fuselage at the back, so that the tail wheel dropped and the airspeed indicator and tail trimmer failed. They also had about 30 bullet holes in the tail unit. Arriving over their home base, they found that the hydraulics were out of action. They lowered the undercarriage by the emergency gear and did a landing without flaps. It was an interesting experience because we should have thought that a 40mm shell bursting inside the fuselage would have pretty well blown the tail off. It says something for wood construction, and I want to tell you some more about that subject in another talk. They talked of some other remarkable Mosquito jobs. Their commanding officer is Wing Commander Edwards, VC, and they think the world of him. The other day, while he was bombing a power station in France, he was jumped by 12 snappers, all Focke-Wulf 190s. They hardly ever see anything else now. He got away from the lot, and although shot about, he managed to land on a British aerodrome with his undercarriage up, and without damaging his aeroplane or himself very much. Another of their stories was about a young American sergeant in the same squadron. He was jumped by 2 Focke-Wulf 190s near Hanover recently and chased right out to the Frisian Islands. In one moment of excitement he got into a partial spin at 24,000 feet, and to deceive and elude the Jerry fighters, he let the aircraft go on spinning for 18,000 feet, a drop of 3 miles. At 6,000 feet he started to pull out, and at 4,000 feet he had come out of the spin perfectly, and the Jerrys he found had gone home. So now you know what the spinning qualities of the Mosquito are like. The pilot of DZ313 on the Oslo raid was Pilot Officer Rowland. Do you remember him? He was the man who hit the chimney pot when bombing Flensburg submarine base and brought home pieces of the chimney in the cockpit. He had a propeller and spinner hit near Oslo on this raid and didn't notice this until he landed in Scotland. His commanding officer, Wing Commander Edwards, said, well, if it got you from Norway to Scotland, it'll get you the rest of the way. So he took off again and flew home. The tough duralumin of the de Havilland propeller blades stands this kind of treatment. A Sterling propeller was sent in for repair the other day with 130 bullet holes in one blade. It has flown safely home. Although the public have not heard of the Mosquito before, thousands who work on this aircraft have known that Mosquitoes have been bombing targets in Germany by day, almost every day, for several months. Of course, they've had casualties, but these have not been heavy. And when we were sure that the Germans knew a bit about the Mosquito, and not a moment before, the British government decided to announce it. Now that it is announced, all who are making parts for the Mosquitoes or working on the assembly lines will understand better the responsibility of their position. The first thing is that the R.A.F. want all the Mosquitoes we can give them. It may now be stated that the Director General of Aircraft Production recently visited the principal centres of Mosquito manufacture to explore on the spot the possibilities of building up the output to the absolute maximum. What he said put a seal upon what had been heard from the R.A.F. direct. After many months of operational experience, the aircraft has been declared one of the most outstanding successes of this war up to the present time. Another remarkable aspect has been the expeditiousness with which this type has been got out. The makers have been told on high authority that the time taken from the start of design to delivery to the squadrons represents a record in the history of the Royal Air Force. One more word concerning our responsibility as makers of the Mosquito. We must continue to be very careful about matters of secrecy. The Germans are on the track now. Their spy system has undoubtedly been instructed to seek out all possible information about this new aircraft which carries bombs but has fighter performance. Don't forget that in May 1941, a spy named Richter was dropped by parachute from a German aircraft near London one night, fully equipped with a small, powerful radio set and other apparatus. Fortunately, he was caught on May the 13th, and later he was executed, but there may be others who were not caught. Keep your eyes and ears open and your mouths closed. Never say anything in public about the design details of the Mosquito, and of course never talk about production programs. You can have complete confidence about the way the Ministry will release information about the aircraft. One excellent feature of the Mosquito production is the way it has been widely dispersed. I wish I could tell you now just how widely dispersed the manufacture is. Perhaps I will be allowed to do so before long, and you'll be more than pleased when you hear about it.